Carnival Personnel was recorded in a dank, moldy basement.
Joe and Jacques, it's Carnival Personnel. Joe and Jacques, to their wives this show is their personal hell. Well, the show sounds the same every single week. Pats are great, Trump is lame, and Joe barely speaks. Who you think still listening?
Who you think still listening?
Besides Jim and Biff, yeah.
And don't forget Richard.
Here's a random review. No one cares about you two, Joe and Jacques.
Joe and Jacques, Joe and Jacques, Joe and Jacques.
Hey, Biff, what's the toughest part about being Batman?
What is the toughest part about being a Batman? Jacques, what is the toughest part? Tell me.
Never getting your parents' approval. Okay,
Please
Biff.
tell me you have another joke.
I do, for you to poop on. Hey, Biff, why is Batman so jealous of Superman?
Why is it that Batman is jealous of Superman?
He got adopted. You see, because they were both orphans. And
Gee, Mr. Whoopi, I don't know.
hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel. This is Jacques.
Who do you think this is? It's not Biff, not the good one. Nope. Sorry. He came to his senses. Ah, God damn it. He came to his senses. He stopped putting up fences.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
Hi. Oh, yeah. I forgot to introduce myself. I need no introduction, but at this point, I'm Carnival Personnel royalty, I think.
I agreed. Yeah, again, last week we didn't have a show, mostly because checking notes. I was lazy. Like we had a guest, things kind of went sideways. I couldn't get my shit together. And then I'm like, you know what? We've had so many great episodes. I'm going to repost one of them. And then Sunday became Tuesday, became Thursday, became I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. And so in honor of Martin Luther King Day, we decided to just abstain from white guys talking for once.
Yes, but I was going to take my take on anyways. No. So it's just Joe and I today. And over the past 24 hours, I've recorded one sideshow with Biff and one sideshow with Joe. And I got to tell you, listener, singular, not the plural, a few weeks ago,
Biff.
we know it's not Biff. A few weeks ago, we had our good friend, Bill Fay on. Absolutely, unarguably, one of the most successful producers in Hollywood the last 30 years. Sweetheart, great guy, and as you could tell from the recording, a real friend, not somebody we've met or I know. And that's been great. The next two sideshows over the next few weeks, Biff and I talked with this woman, Maria Dennis, who we've been hockey pals with for 30 years. We've been really, really great friends. She is one of the nicest, sweetest persons on the planet. Also, just recently named by Hockey News top 10 most influential people in hockey. Not in women's hockey, not in college, but overall. And she is her title is insanely long lead legal counsel of the National Hockey League Players Association and vice president of player safety. And
It's, I think, SHIELD for short. Right?
Right. Exact. Thank you. You know, I'm not going to give it the whole thing away, but, you know, it's funny how small the world is and who she's crossed paths with from point A to point B. But Biff and I talked to her maybe an hour and a half, maybe a half hour before, half hour after, and we could have done a 10-hour. Like, we could have done a podcast just with her. Maybe we will. Joe and I just finished recording a podcast that will drop in a few weeks with arguably one of the more important feature or one of the more important persons in Boston comedy in the last 40 years, a guy named John Tobin. And your thoughts on that 2-hour talk, Joe?
I can't believe we're bumping his show for this. Like,
Yeah,
maybe I'm second guessing going without Biff for this regular Carnival Personnel podcast, because maybe we should do 2 side shows in a row so people don't have to wait an extra week to hear John talk.
or Maria Dennis talk.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I mean,
yes.
I mean,
You're right.
like I said, it's one of those things where I said it when Bill was on. There's very oftentimes I'm like, wait, I know how I met this person, but why 20 years later are they taking my call? Because there are immediate family members who don't return a text don't return a text, period. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. There, you know, I need to be I need to be somebody's +1 to be invited to a family party of my own. And yet, Bill will call. And there's so many other guests that, you know, I've talked to and that Biff has talked to who are going to be coming on over the next few months. And I got to tell you, it's just an embarrassment of riches of the people we have. And I wish we had a larger listenership, seriously, for the first time, to make it these people's time worthwhile. You know, because you know, I'll talk to a guy at the bus stop for, you know, an hour and a half about the religious structures of Mayan culture.
He's our next sideshow guest, by the way.
Fred's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, the tinfoil hat is,
Strangely clean shaven.
but just from the neck down. Anyways, So yeah, it's been an embarrassment of riches over the last few months who we've had on. Just the drummer from Public Image Limited and 9 Inch Nails. Why?
Right.
You know, but these next couple sideshows, like I said, the regional headliners that we've become friends with through this podcast and me being in the circuit, all of them were like, "Oh, you're talking to John? Please tell him I said hi. Oh, bring up this story. Oh, John did this, this, and this. Oh, people don't know this, but John made this happen for this person." You know, and it's one of those things where, you know, he'll get calls from Bill Burr. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, so we're very excited. And, you know, and speaking of Bill, when he was on, you know, I jokingly talked about our play, Happy
not Bill
Texas.
Burr, by the way.
Not Bill Burr yet,
Bill Fay.
but Bill Fay. But yeah, there's going to be a meeting next week or the week after in LA with somebody I'm not going to put out there yet who will be a guest soon.
Spielberg.
From the Broadway world, who is interested in possibly jumping on board with. I feel more comfortable of now saying our production of Happy Texas, because I'm actually setting up some meetings with some people of note to break bread with Bill, and I might jump a plane to get out there to be part of a couple meetings. But yeah, it's unbelievable how this little fledgling podcast that you've kept alive for 7 years to indulge me has really the last year been legitimized, I think, by the people who've come on, starting with Biff.
I haven't added it up, but have we done 10,000 hours of this podcast? Because if not, it sure feels like it. But in another respect, it also is as rewarding as putting in 10,000 hours to something. So yeah, I think your rewards are justified.
No, and it is great, and it's funny. So, John Tobin runs Nick's Comedy Stop, which we told, you know, should I have told them that we bribed, you know, All-Star Tommy's daughter's way in and Squishy's way in? I think he was cool with it.
I think he knew.
Oh, those are the people. Okay, boss. You know, but yeah, which is still hysterical. Oh, 13-year-old boy? Sure. Come on in. Wait a minute. You know, that delicate flower who's a 1.5 feet taller and 17 years old on her way to college with both parents. You know
Right.
what I mean? Tristan's with, first of all, I'm his parent and I present like this.
Yep.
They're cool with that. All-Star Tommy, you know, banking wizard, ER doctor wife, clean cut, clean shaven, as is Tommy, but yet they gave a hard time. Great to know that sexism is alive and well.
At least in Boston it is.
But it was fantastic that we're talking to Tobin about, we had somebody in town, wanted to see comedy, and that's, of course, the place you have to take them. So that was great. A little news and Joe's side of the world and my side of the world. It seems this fake COVID thing is rearing its fake ugly head again, Joe.
You're right. It is a hoax. It's gone on long enough because it's infecting all of us. So my son has COVID. You have two family members who also came down with the hoax. So
and it's funny because last week we'll get into the partying that Joe and I did with both boys this past last week. Awesome. I felt fine but a little sniffly, and then a few days later both my wife and kid pop, and at the same time when I traveled to Joe's, management's friend traveled here, and she a few days later calls and says, "I'm so sorry. Did I bring it to Joe's? Did I bring it home from Joe's? Did this woman bring it to our house?" And it's like every time I turn around, this fake COVID thing keeps popping up its ugly COVID head.
I think by now we can kind of drop the facade that COVID's a hoax. It's more so that the vaccines don't work, and it's not a big deal. And honestly, it's not a big deal. My kid's not dying. Not like I am inside right now, but there's no vaccine for that though.
My oldest one had a bad day. Had 104, 101. The local people. He hit WBCN.
104.1.
See my line, George.
Yeah, not 104, 101. It's 104.1.
Not 104.5 because I made that mistake.
Right, it's the Rock of Boston.
But 2 days later, he's like, "Hey, I want to go to my swim meet." It was like, dude, it's like he was fine. He had a rough day. And by rough day, I mean, he had a high temperature while he was screaming, playing his games. So he had the strength to make it from his bed to his gaming chair.
He probably started with 100-degree temperature, but then the gaming ticked it up to 4.
So, management is she's feeling it, but it's like, it sucks. It is what it is. No one fucking cares. Move on. Wait, people have cold, flus, and COVID in New England the week after a blizzard.
I know. Yeah.
What are the odds? But speaking of partying, Joe, I've done enough talking. You were the host. You were the gracious host. Thank you for hosting last week. You also were the curator of the evening's entertainment. Break it down for us.
Well, thank you for that introduction. So, my wife went away, and she came back. Don't worry, she came back.
Humble brag.
Yeah, but she did go away. She did go away for a week, and of course that means party time excellent in our house. No, it just means this way I can have a friend over, my one only friend over to watch old 70s shows. So of course we sat down in front of the 60-inch behemoth of TV that I have down in the living room, and we used the 4K technology to really render the 240p images that came out of the 1970s, starting with the Battle of the Network Stars. Yes, the Battle of the Network Stars, but not just any Battle of the Network Stars. I think it was Battle of the Network Stars 6 from like 1981, and it was great. It had Gabe Kaplan, captain of the ABC team. No, wait, he was captain of the CBS team because he had been off Welcome Back, Kotter and doing another sitcom for CBS at that point. And then he, of course, Howard Cosell is the master of ceremonies.
Howard Cosell was just delicious.
He was everything you wanted in a Howard Cosell and more. His color commentator was Lee Majors. And there were, I mean, the stars were endless. I think Scott Baio was there, Ann Jillian, Mark Harmon.
No, that's the one that you watched without me. This was the one that had Lou Ferrigno.
Oh,
and Reed.
Tim Reed from WKRP. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the. It's funny because they would do these fluff piece, this actress who was on a show at the time that lasted 12 episodes that you never saw from again. Yes. But there was some.
Oh, this was from 78. Yeah, I'm looking at your notes that you texted me from the scene. Yeah, so I mean, how quickly I forget. David Letterman competed.
Yes,
I think he was on Team CBS. This is pre 1980, pre David Letterman show, and also pre Late Show. So, it was great. It was like, I thank God for the now defunct Trio network, the cable network that reran these in the early 2000s, I want to say, just around the time when VHS technology was still kicking, but not, like it was on its way out. But thank goodness it was still around, because some, kind soul taped the Battle of the Network Stars marathon.
Some hero, Joe.
Yes, they taped the marathon that they were running on the Trio network at the time. By the way, Trio network also gave us the first copies of Look Well, because they had a show called Brilliant but canceled, and Look Well was one of the episodes. So there's a playlist on YouTube right now with, I think, all of the Battle of the Network Stars from 76 to 83 or something like that. I forget. They're all up there. I watched the very first one. That's the one we should have watched, because it starts off with Telly Savalas shirtless in a swimming pool or hot tub or something. No, I think it was in a swimming pool. But he had a phone by his side, and he was making the calls to the other captains, like Gabe Kaplan from ABC, of course, Telly Savalas with CBS, and then Robert Conrad from NBC. And there were only 3 networks, so that was it, And that's the one where Gabe Kaplan gets in a big argument with Robert Conrad during like the 100-meter dash. Or some relay race. It was a relay race, yes. And there was some foul up that their team, you'll see. I don't want to get into it now, but that's the tip of the iceberg. Then we finally took Biff's suggestion. Maybe one of his 2 suggestions. That being, if you remember way back to our last talk, I think he mentioned seeing Boy in the Plastic Bubble. And that's what we dived into. And that was a pretty nice copy that was on YouTube. Like, that was a pretty clean.
Yeah. Somebody worked at a station who had a clean, 3/4 inch at one point, and
yeah, I think or some sort of a DVD rip or something. But this was like really, good quality. And man, I don't know if we were as good as Mystery Science Theater, but I felt like we were. I think the riffing that you and I did, and my sons, my older son,
and one of the joys of your older son being there with the Battle Network Stars when they were talking about like the prize money, and Boy in a Plastic Bubble, where he bet somebody $10, he was quick on the draw to find out. Okay, 1976, $10 was this much now. Like,
he was our resident inflation calculator. So,
as well as quick with the quips.
Yes,
funny kid. Funny kid.
I don't know where he gets it. So then we went on to watch Pink Lady. No, not Pink Lady and Jeff. That's what they renamed it later. Pink Lady from 1980. Of course, Pink Lady being, everybody knows Pink Lady by now. If you listen to this podcast or the Gilbert Gottfried podcast, you know what Pink Lady is. It's a Japanese pop duo who came to the States, spoke no English. Sid and Marty Krofft production. They were told they speak English. They read all of their lines on a cue card phonetically. Jeff Altman was the English co-host, and he was, you flip it like a cheese omelet, right? Wasn't that?
Yep. It's a huge album for him.
Yeah. Was it cheese omelet, right?
Yep, it's a cheese omelet.
Yeah. And he was, but Pink Lady and Jeff were secondary to the guest stars.
Oh,
I mean, you had, Red Buttons, right?
yep.
And one, a guy,
Up and comer, new guy.
Louis Jerry or something like that. Jerry Lewis, yes.
Who was at his Jerryest Louisest.
He was, a couple of years had passed since the day the clown cried. So he was able to get his comedy chops back. And honestly, I think we genuinely laughed during his routine. It was a pre-tape, not in front of the studio audience, but in front of the stage crew. And he did a lot of fourth wall stuff with the camera rigs. And he was actually he got on the camera truck and the camera that rises, like the cherry picker that goes up and down, the crane shot, camera. It was delightful. Very delightful.
The walkout with the two girls and Jeff, that little exchange, dude, rolling. Right, when he opens his breast pocket to pretend to read his name,
Yes,
it's really great to be here with you too, Jeff.
Yeah. And one of the Pink Lady members was genuinely laughing, couldn't hold in her laughter because Jerry Lewis, he I'm sure, I don't know if she understood what he was saying, but you didn't have to. He was Jerry Lewis. He was just doing but sadly, unlike the way my son predicted, he did not say Pink Lady.
If there was one missed opportunity, it'd be that. So if Jerry was going to take some notes from us, I think that would have been the one note. I got a note.
And then Jacques requested that we round out the evening with some old game shows because, of course, my Plex is loaded with old game shows. So we watched an episode of MTV's Remote Control. We watched the Card Sharks with it was a charity one where they had Alex Trebek against, it was all game show hosts of the time competing against each other. And then we also finished it off with an episode of Starcade from 1984. And I actually IMDb'd the kid, one of the kids in there, and he is on IMDb, and his sole credit is his appearance on Starcade.
He's somewhere at a bar in Reseda now telling people, there was a show in 1984. Grandpa, shut the fuck up.
Starcade, of course, is the game show where two teenagers or young adults compete head-to-head in video arcade competitions. And, they have to play, games to get high scores and also answer trivia questions. And their prize, an arcade cabinet.
Which back then, pretty big deal.
Thousands of dollars, still are now.
And 175 pounds, to move that from point A to point B.
Yes.
If you borrow your mom's K car to get to the taping that day, you were not going to get that home.
I think they deliver it. But anyway,
all right.
I don't think you actually take it home from the studio. It's not like a case of turtle wax. But then before you left, we snuck in a little bit of the content from the Mystery Science Theater 3000 YouTube streaming channel, just to, see how the pros do it.
How the competition do it, Joe, to see how the competition. No, it was one of those nights where, as I'm logging, because, I forget what we watched right after we watched it. And I'm like, oh my God. And I feel like a loser. Joe feels like a loser. But then when I tell a bunch of different friends we watched that, they're like, oh my God, why don't you call me and let me come over? Invite me to that. Because if you're going to watch John Travolta at his best, I think arguably his best in Boy in Plastic Bubble, you really, the more the merrier.
It really is event viewing. That was must see TV back in the day. And it kind of still is.
No, it was fantastic. And so Joe, Joe's boy, mid-20s, and it's you can't tell them how the world really was. We don't have the vernacular and the linguistic capabilities, but sitting there with him, showing him Pink Lady, I think really he understands the suffering that the world was.
Oh, and our little surprise visit from from one of the players of Pink Lady and Jeff, Jim Varney,
Oh.
aka Ernest P. Worrell. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
For some reason, that slipped my memory that he was, one of the regulars of that. Launching Pad, really, that show was.
Yes, it was. Hey, not all rockets went up.
No,
like that.
Yeah.
You can have a launching pad that
Yeah,
doesn't actually send all the rockets into space. Some of them do crash.
So some of them hit the moon. Some of them, challengers.
Hey, some of them challenges.
I said it wrong. Okay.
Yes.
Need another 7 astronauts. Anyways, wait,
yes.
there's the door. I will
Hi.
be showing
Welcome to
myself
1986 in comedy at the Improv.
Management and I ended up watching something the night, and I really, I think I'm going to table this because there's a show called The Bling Ring that I wanted to get Biv's take on it. Early 2000s, there was a group of thieves who targeted celebrities' houses, and they in turn became celebrities.
That's the way the world works, baby.
And there was a part of that kind of, hit home with a friend of ours here. So I'm going to table that.
Little teaser.
It is. So while you already mentioned games, do you have time to play any games while you're going through the ABC after school specials one by one on your days off?
You know what? I didn't talk about it last week or last sideshow or whatever the fuck we call it now. But no, I haven't been playing a lot of video games. But the last thing I haven't been playing was maybe you did talk about it. Your VR gift,
Yes.
your Sony PlayStation VR rig. I rented a couple. I still have them with me. A couple of VR games from the library. Very entertaining. It's it's 6-year-old technology or 7-year-old technology, but the games, it's a trip. It's new to me.
Right.
And I played this game called Astrobot Rescue Mission, and it's like you control this little cute walking little Wall-E type robot, kind of like if Wall-E and Eva like did it, and then Eva, and they had a little offspring, and Astrobot is what they would have produced, and it's like it's a 3D platformer. You go around collecting things and stuff like that. You have to get to the end, and there's like time challenges if you want to go back and do that sort of thing. But it was fun. I pretty much finished it. I finished it, but I haven't 100%ed it yet. But I've yet to play, which I also borrowed from the library, Resident Evil Biohazard for VR.
Yep.
That I'm sure will be scary. And then I also bought and haven't played. I downloaded Batman VR. So
awesome.
I have
heard
some
good things.
Yeah, I have some. And the last I borrowed Tetris Effect, which is Tetris in VR, and it's like it's supposed to be very trippy and like electronic dance music, kind of like EDM kind of stuff. So it's Tetris with some flair. So I'm all about it.
And honestly, the interesting thing is, I wonder if games like that are made for people who get stoned. Because you and I, sober, we don't drink, we don't, indulge in the pharmaceuticals. Chocolate is my drug, carbs is my drug. But I wonder if those games are kind of meant for that.
I think, maybe. I also think maybe they're made for people who like a vibe, who want to feel like they're being influenced.
Okay.
But they're not really, it's like they want to see the effects of, the effects of hallucinogenics without actually like suffering the consequences. And that's like, that I think that's what the appeal is. And then I guess speaking of Tetris, did we talk about the Tetris kid?
Yeah. But that's, which has caused we can't have nice things.
What happened?
It's the bottom line. Yeah, there was some backlash and people upset about, being upset. Yeah, it's like.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no.
So people who don't know the story, 13-year-old kid was the first ever to cause the game of Tetris for the Nintendo Entertainment System to crash. And I watched a little short video explaining that, with tool assisted runs and AI and computer runs, they, that has been done before, but never done by a human. And there are certain like conditions that have to be met, and there's a certain way in which you have to hold the controller in order to make the turns fast enough, because they just fall at such a rate that an average player can't, manipulate the blocks in time, let alone like actually like trigger
Move it,
lines. But some 13-year-old phenom did it, and and he streamed it live.
Yeah.
And the exuberance on his face, and like he was hyperventilating, like he was, because he had done it. And so I can't imagine now that what's the backlash?
No, you know what? We're staying positive, because
okay, good.
That kid had that kid had a great accomplishment.
Okay, good. So did you see like a MAGA hat in the corner?
No,
of the screen
nothing like that. Like just
All
people like because he was the first to do it streaming. He's the first, and blah blah blah, and other people claim. It's like, dude, let the kid have this. Like but there when you see, there's a documentary on the Rubik's Cube, dude. The fact that like we've heard these things before, that the smartest person in the world uses like 12% of their brain. Like what happens when we unlock this? Like what happens when did Stephen Hawking get to 15% of his brain, on his way to Epstein's Island? Anyways, but seriously, when you see these people do the Rubik's Cube thing in seconds, it's like how their hands move that fast. Like, and I'm a drummer playing in a punk band, and I'm looking at that, like they're blurs and they're processing these. I get it's a puzzle and it's a thing, but
we don't bat an eye. Well, we kind of do, but I mean, like when we see like great athletes doing phenomenal things, we show reverence to that sort of thing, but then we don't like say, well, of course they can accomplish such feats because they practiced it. There seems to be like some, I know they're two kind of separate things, but they're also similar in a way. Like you become an elite athlete by practice and dedication and just talent. Right. And you can do the same thing on a smaller, quote unquote, smaller scale with these puzzles and games, but they're not treated the same way, because it seems like, well, any dork can,
it's a North thing, right? And you can't. But my thing is when you see them within seconds do these puzzles, like it's like their brain processing to do that is it's next level. No, it's true. I'll see a parkour video, like an unedited, somebody doing the parkour, and I'll repost it and be like, superheroes aren't real, Jacques. And then I'll post this, and you're like, okay, put him in some spandex and a Nightwing mask, and tell me that isn't, when you see that kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait.
Nope, you're right. Yep. But it is. So that kid to be able to process that and all, the confluence that came together. But great for him. But with you playing Biohazard, that's great. No, I like that one. That was one of those in between Resident Evil games. It wasn't. Okay. I don't think it was. Yeah, it was.
It was. Oh no, this is 7. It's Resident Evil 7.
Okay. Oh, that is the baker's house.
Yeah.
Watch it and learn with other people around you.
I think I played 7 regularly, like a little bit of 7, like at least the first part.
Here's my story.
Is that what you're getting out of the? Is that where you get out of the garage with the car in it? And everything?
Yep. Okay, yeah. But the first scene that you had, the first scene you get out of before you get to the garage. So that came out 2016. We just moved back, and of course I'm letting the oldest one play it, 9. And that first scene is so scary and impossible to get past. And I remember one day he getting so frustrated at my mom's house, he puts a controller down. He's like, I'm not doing this. 6-year-old brother walks over, second attempt, third attempt. It's like, okay, got you out of that room. And he had a birthday party a few weeks later, and he wanted the screen grab of that scary person bloody with a knife. And we took the picture in and had that printed on the cake. And there was some people at the party like, why would you do this? It's because he wanted it, right? But should he want this?
Yeah. And I mean, I was there. Actually, I went with you to Market Basket to pick it up.
Yeah, so that's 2006. Yeah, so he was 6. You know what I mean? So he beat the game at 5, 2006. And yeah, why does he have a team of therapists now for a sec? Anyways, staying on games. So my little guy whose life is playing football, soccer, and playing this game FIFA. And as I've talked over the last several months, he has become an encyclopedia of the history of this game. Like he can tell you the best players in the history of the European leagues, the Italian league, in the history of this team, that team, the other team. It has been disappointing to his mother and I. He's become a little bit of a misogynistic, women can't play sports as good, they shouldn't play at all. He's not saying they should be in the kitchen, but he would take pride in showing me a clip where the U.S. women's national team played the U.S. 15 and under boys, and they beat them. So they can't be good, you know? And I would counteract that by seeing a clip on Instagram of a woman doing a bicycle kick from the top of her box, you know, for, you know, the women's Barcelona team against Madrid, and say, hey, when you can do this, come back to me. Well, blah, blah, blah. And it's so his life is playing football and playing FIFA. And FIFA has these things like other games where you get these pack of cards digitally and you pick your squad from them. FIFA about a month ago started including female players in the pack.
Well, the players need somebody to kiss, right?
And
oh, we know.
Right.
See,
and,
that's
and that's you know, yes. Now moving on. But like he's now starting to have more than an appreciation, but a fanhood. It's like, and funny because one of the cards I looked up, I'm like, oh, Mia Hamm. And he was surprised and indignant. How do you know Mia Hamm? It's like, dude, I didn't start watching the sport when you started playing last year. You know what I mean? I've been to professional games. Mama went to like, you know, the World Cup, you know, game. And anyways, so he was surprised, but now the other day he's turned such a corner where, you know, he's scrolling through YouTube. He does it daily, and he's watching the highlights from AC Milan's game the night before, Madrid's game. There are these 90-minute games broken down to 7-8 minute games, like a NFL package, or in a, but that's his thing. He was scrolling. He goes, "Oh, Barca verse," and he named the other team. And as he starts to play it, I'm like, "Oh, he's watching highlights from the women's Barca game." And he says to management, "It's like, Mama." Check out her. She does this. And because he had seen it somewhere and he wanted her to see this amazing play. And we don't say anything. We don't make a big deal out of it. But it's funny how that FIFA game, because they incorporated the women into it, because he knows their stats, he has really, in the last month, it's been fantastic watching him go from, well, you know, a women's team can't play a boys' team, to watching highlights. And when you have to pick your squad, she's the best midfielder in this pack, so I'm starting her. You know what I mean? And just, it's funny how the game has done that. And
suddenly video games have become quite important.
I wouldn't have guessed it. I wouldn't have guessed that that's how he would stop being, you know, a misogynistic piece of shit and saying, hey, I can't do what these athletes are doing. You know what I mean? They're amazing. And it was really a nice moment. It was really a nice moment. So
it just shows you what you can do with exposure to other things, you know? You know, like we were talking about briefly, we'll tease the comedy talk that we had with John Tobin about how, you know, yeah, you could do a night of comedy with all straight white cis males and, you know, have an okay time or have a fun time or whatever. But you bring in so many more people and you can expose more people to more points of view if you're diverse. So, you know, bring on other types of comics, you know, same with sports, you know, it's great. Like, honestly, FIFA might be the only, to my knowledge, the only video game that has cross gender or multi-gender
At one
representation?
At one point, when we were trying to put together an Armed Forces Entertainment tour with the WNBA, part of the fun is, and this is, I don't remember what version of the NBA 2K, thing. There was a downloadable content where you could play as WNBA
players.
Okay, and part of the tour was, hey, you get to do 3-on-3 tournaments with these players, camps, clinics, shoot arounds, and play them in the video game, because all the bases have video game rooms, and you know what I mean. It'd be fun to, but as a general rule, I don't know any other. But like Biff was talking a couple weeks ago on the podcast about the new 6-team pro women's league that is selling out stadiums, that is playing in front of packed houses, that is all the games are covered nationally in Canada. All the games are streamed live on YouTube in the States. We talked a great deal about this with Maria Dennis, and hopefully that starts to change some. No, I shouldn't. It's not change minds. Exposure. That this is a great game. That there is checking in that game. That these women, that these athletes can shoot a puck much better than I could in my prime. You know what I mean? It's like the game is blindingly fast, and it's great, and it's gritty, and the players don't like each other, and fantastic.
I wonder now, they're thinking to the future, Conan.
The future.
This is like, me being super liberal, Joe, but because these sports like basketball, hockey, soccer, as we call it, do incorporate, genders of, like all genders, and American football kind of has just one gender, and is not necessarily like, I'm sure there are probably women football leagues. Are there? I don't know.
Yeah. There was I saw a little documentary or like on Chronicle, like a news piece on a team in New England.
Okay.
But it's not as well sponsored or funded or known about. You know what I mean? But these athletes are just, again, getting back to, when we had John Tobin on, we're talking comedy, but he was also, because he works at Northeastern, and talking about like, his kids, college athletes. Division III football players don't work any less hard than the people who play for Nebraska. The people in Nebraska, bigger, stronger, faster, but they're not practicing more. They're not in the gym more. They're not being coached more. You know what I mean?
I guess my point is that is there going to be, will the league, I guess the league will probably survive if there's not a lot of like incorporate, or if there's not like a women's counterpart that is competitive.
It's nice to see that. And again, this is something we talked about with Maria Dennis in her podcast. It's like there's more roles for women in pro sports. Like there's more officials in the NFL who are now women. I don't know I don't know about refs in the NHL. Maybe refs, but not linemen, because linemen break up fights, and it
takes a special type of person to break up a hockey fight.
You got 2 6'4", Canadian farm boys throwing haymakers who each weigh 250. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I don't know, but there's all kinds of different things. But as far as this new league, it's doing well. The attendance is great. The viewership is great. So again, him seeing this through the video game, opening up his eyes. Yeah. Hopefully more people tune in, because it's just exposure. It's just exposure. What other than are you watching anything current on TV these days, Joe, or is your recommendation just
what? I'm sorry.
Trio.
Yes. No, I watched a brand new show. What are you talking about?
What show would that be?
Oh, a little show called Ted. Not Ted Lasso. Sorry, no. Ted Lasso's dead and buried. But on Peacock, they brought. Remember Ted? He's back in Peacock form. So the first 7 episodes, or maybe it's the only 7 episodes of the new Peacock series Ted. It's a prequel to the movies, if you haven't heard about it. Ted the talking bear who was wished to life by a boy in the Boston area. The original movie had Mark Wahlberg as the guy who grew up with this talking teddy bear, voiced by Seth MacFarlane, yada, 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 comedy ensues. It's Family Guy. But this is different. See, this one, it's still the same Ted, voiced by Seth MacFarlane. Looks a lot more believable because CGI technology has gotten better. But it takes place in 1993 in Framingham, Massachusetts. And John, who's the boy, is 16. So basically, 16-year-old boy in 1993 is me. That's like my
bam, yeah,
bam, is like bullseye in Massachusetts. Like, come on, racist parents, please, no, no. But one of the racist, kind of racist. Let's just say one of the characters calls the dad the most tolerant, understanding white man in the greater Boston area. It's played by our friend Scott Grimes.
Yep. It's like I had texted Scott saying, I know who you base that character on. Every white guy over 50.
Yeah, it's everybody. Scott Grimes is the dad. He's great. Really, the breakout of that show is Alana Ubach, who I remember from 1993's TV show Beekman's World. She was one of the assistants on Beekman's World. She played Josie, but she plays kind of this dingbatish mom, she plays him so delicately and so beautifully and so great. There is like a moment in one of the episodes where you kind of feel for, her response to something, and I think she's the best actor on that show. Then they have like a niece that lives with them who's she's like a college age stoner / drug dealer kind of person who lives in the attic. Although I did have to voice my discontent on the internet about episode 1. Ted is a teddy bear who stays home all day, and the episode is basically trying to get him to go to school with John so that he can, get out of the house and not be a layabout. And he's like, well, I can't really do that because, you see, The Price is Right comes on at 10 o'clock and they play Plinko. And then I went immediately to the internet. And I said, Mr. Seth MacFarlane, dearest Seth MacFarlane, I understand you're under a lot of stress. You have a lot of things, a lot of plates to spin, and you might have overlooked this fact, but in the Boston area, The Price is Right airs on CBS daytime at 11 p.m. Eastern, and it hasn't wavered in 1993. I
felt the same way, and I made my post simple in saying, I wish you made that flight.
Yes.
Not a good person.
No, you're not a very good person. But no, I to wrap it up, my long-winded recommendation. Yeah, I laughed. It's some reviews called it vulgar. Yes, it's vulgar. It's it's an MA rated show, but it's I think it's worth a watch, especially if you're from the Boston area, especially if you're in the 40 to 50-year-old range. It's funny. I don't know. And it does have a Family Guy type of pacing. But it does have a little bit of heart, and I like it. I like it, and I look forward to more episodes.
My recommendation, I watched an amazing documentary about the Bee Gees, and it was one of those, yeah, I know all about this. No, I don't. I knew a lot of this stuff, but it was absolutely fascinating. I guess this is a John Travolta-centric podcast, but about how disco came about because of Saturday Night Fever. And again, I knew a lot of the history. They're a fascinating story. Like the four brothers are a fascinating story. The Bee Gees, and then the younger brother, Andy Gibb. But seeing, kind of their rise to fame, and then the backlash about disco and anyways, it was really worth a watch. The Bee Gees are one of those bands that I intensely hated growing up because, through the 70s, I was, a rock guy. And then, as the 80s rolled in, Blondie and U2 and Talking Heads. Yeah, right, exactly. It's Sex Pistols. But the older I got, I'm like, yeah, this is great. You know what I mean?
Just bangers. I mean, for Christ's sake.
Well,
how deep is your love?
Dude,
come on.
I mean, at one point, they ended up having 5 songs in the top 10 for the majority of 1976. In listening to record personalities and radio people saying, oh my God, it fucking sucks because we played it 1,000 times a day, but this was what people wanted. You know what I mean? It's
and being Generation X, it was natural to push back against disco, and they embodied disco. They were the embodiment of the disco era.
They actually created it, and it's funny how it came about. And then at the same time, it was a chicken and egg thing. Without giving too much away, it's they got hired to do a song for the movie, but the song came out before the movie, and before the movie was released, it was going to be in a couple hundred theaters. But now they're wait a minute.
Yeah, we got lightning in a bottle here.
And then the movie came out with then quadruple what was happening. So anyways, it was a good watch. And then I also watched a documentary on Mary Tyler Moore that was great and sad. And I got to tell you, we've talked a lot about the Mary Tyler Moore show. And at one point, the last episode of the show, Rhoda had left and come back, but they're doing the goodbyes, the wrap after the show and introducing the cast. Dude, I know a lot of people the 6 people from Friends all had great careers. I know, I'm trying to think of some of the other shows where, Cheers, Launching Pad, Archie Bunker. I don't know though. I mean, Mary Tyler Moore is in the conversation of the show that everybody had a career after. It's not like John Travolta had a meteoric career after the Sweathawks, after
Horseshack, not so much.
Right. Gabe Kaplan had a career, but it wasn't, I mean,
he made his money in poker playing.
That was the pinnacle. There wasn't a person, who didn't go on and have another long running show, hit movies, type thing. I mean, up until their passing, all of them were working. You know what I mean? Betty White.
Yeah.
But we could go down the list.
I mean, Ted Knight was on Too Close for Comfort when he passed.
Too Close for Comfort, Caddyshack, like movies and
Yeah.
And same thing, Mr. Grant, good old Lou Grant.
Right. I mean, he up, Santa,
to the very end was an iconic, person. Even
dates on the books.
The Love Boat. Gary McLeod goes to do had a career outside the Love Boat as well, but the Love Boat #1 show for many seasons.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But that documentary was great, but it also, it was, the tragedy, that, she does Terms of Endearment about a woman who can't connect with her surviving son after one of her 2 kids passes, and then her kid, dies 3 weeks after the movie comes out. You know what I mean? And it's one of those hard life, type thing. But again, her and her husband at the time who created MG, I didn't realize the number of shows that they got off the ground and on the air. If she was never an actress, just a behind the scenes producer person.
How many shows do you see the MTM cat? WKRP in Cincinnati. You can't hear the last theme song without ending with the meow. That two bar cigar, peto overlay.
So those are my recommendations. And what were the lyrics of that again?
I'm singing them. What, can't you understand? I laid a hole and a bone, but Okay, I'm done.
And when that wraps up the self-indulgent theater for this week as well. And so that's good. Joe, I mean, I got to spend time with your delightful sons, both wonderful young men watching insanely old man TV the other day. So how did they get from point A to point B? Please give somebody some of the tutelage that helped you raise such competent, wonderful children.
Oh God, oh no. I'm on the spot to do a parenting tip. Well, let's see. I would say, you know what? Sometimes don't helicopter parent your children. Give them some alone time, like 18 hours a day of alone time. I think is a good, healthy amount.
And 6 hours in school.
Yeah, and I just just let them find a nice laptop that has good Wi-Fi, put it in their room, and say, I'm going to close the door behind me and hope everything goes according to plan. And you know what? Half the time, it does.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. And that banner is coming in next week, by the way.
So I was talking to management the other day, and I got rudely interrupted by, one of our two offspring. That's a normal thing. If there's one thing that drives up a wall, whatever anybody else is saying is not nearly as important as what they need you to hear right this second. So they will just walk into the middle of a conversation and start, this. And it's upsetting. And sometimes I snap. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to be more patient. Because, at one point in my life, Mr. Harpoonian taught me how to be impatient. Now I must unlearn what I've learned. So I say, hey, let me finish, talking about. I finished the thought. Then I said to him, okay, what do you need? XYZ. I said, okay. And then I did this thing. I said, hey, Fish, if you see me talking to somebody and mom talking to somebody, I want to try something. And he thought I was joking. He thought I was going to put him in a headlock or yell. I said, come here. When you do this, if you come into a room and people are talking, just come over to me or mama and just put your hand right on my forearm. When I put my hand on your hand, I'm letting you know, I know you're here. I know you have to say something. Let me finish this thought or let this person finish the thought. And then you're going to get my attention. But, let's work on this. And he's kind of like, okay. I said, no, I want to de-escalate, blah, blah, blah. He leaves and management's like, wow, that was not you. Like that was really patient. And, the family therapy, maybe it's working, blah, blah, blah. Because I really like that. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, I was hoping you got what I was doing. And she goes, no, I mirror my phone to the TV, in which I play an Instagram clip where some mom is breaking down an episode of Bluey.
Oh, is that the kid show?
It is the kid show, in which this is what the dad was teaching the little kid, and she was like, no, it's called this. This is a kind of response. There's like all these terms. And she's like, you just Blueyed our 13-year-old son. You use Bluey. And I'm like,
I think that's only tolerable in one state, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right. But and then I sent it, I sent the clip and the thing to my sister. My sister's like, yeah, Bluey is a show for parents, full stop. Like, she's like, yeah, kids like it, but I really think the brilliance behind this is it's like, yeah, there's a better way to do it and maybe try this. I cannot believe my parenting tip is a semi-legit tip that I used a clip off Instagram from Bluey to hopefully get through to my kid, because yelling at him the last 13 years of I'm talking
Right.
hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Hasn't worked.
Yeah, you are evolving and learning. Teaching your children nonverbal cues is, it's a skill set that is kind of lost, on a lot of like these kids today. Like they don't know how to interact with each other unless it's through social media or video or whatever, or text. Like there's an art form to conversing with somebody in person, and not everything has to be verbal. And so, yeah, you're right. And especially with kids on the spectrum, like nonverbal cues is like,
Right.
lost on them 100%, which is why I shouldn't be on a podcast, because I don't have any of those skills. You've heard me try to break down the episode of Ted that I watched. What a train wreck. Jacques' going to have a fun time chopping that up and making it sound coherent. But, I guess is that the end of the show, Jacques? Am I getting the high sign? I'm getting the wrap. Oh man. Well, looks like the old clock on the wall is telling me that are you saying stretch or break? I couldn't tell.
Stretch.
Oh, stretch. Oh no, we're short. We have what do we got? 2 minutes? And so let's see. What can we talk about? Well, no, I again, we missed Biff. There was a miscommunication. There was a last minute impulse decision that one of us made that I won't name Jacques' name, but it was Jacques. God damn it. Oh, I got to learn to be better at being subtle, but that's not me. I mean, you heard me sing the WKRP theme just impulsively. There is a video of somebody, like the actual guy who wrote the WKRP theme, wrote it as an instrumental, and he was going to use like saxophone, but like when he did the demo, like he just started scatting in the studio, and the producers heard the scatting, and they were like, "No, that's awesome. That's rock and roll." Like the whole point of the song is that you can't understand the lyrics, so it's like all nonsense lyrics. And so there's a video with the actual literal lyrics that he wrote. And check it out. Go seek out like WKRP end theme lyrics, and you'll see what they are supposed to be. And meow is not one of the lyrics, by the way. I'm sorry, that is not. And the name of the song actually has a name. I think it's called like this here song, or this song, or something like that. Anyways, it's more WKRP trivia that you needed to know. Or didn't need to know, but I had to tell you because I have time to fill on a podcast. Yes, I must warn you, gentlemen, I have a lot of free time. So that's the end. I promise I won't sing any more end theme songs this week. But who knows? Maybe the next time, I'll surprise you. But until then, enjoy the music. What does that mean? There's no words there. I can't, what does that mean? To play us out? What, like to play a song? All right. In 5, 4. And that's hard copy. I'm Bill O'Reilly, and no, that's no good. Fuck it. In 5, 4, 3. That's hard copy. I'm Bill O'Reilly, and Sting is going to no, that's not right. Yeah, fuck it. We'll do it live. Fuck it. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. That's the show, and here's a cut of Sting's new album. Take it away. Don't forget.